Thank you very much for continuing here with me. I made a couple of more edits to the description, which I feel like, well, that doesn't really count because you come with a full description. As you can see, having a full description really helps for getting this part done. Now that I worked on the first sentence so much, I then put a little more effort into really explaining exactly the big value my book offers. And what I did to share that, I first explained how I created it with the exact phrases people might use. Experience, strength, and hope. These are things people often talk about in AA, especially related to addictions. Candid detail. And then I explain which I think will be helpful for you in identifying similar challenges in your life and overcoming them through our combined experience. And then I put in for the first paragraph, if someone actually goes to click on, so I've clearly explained as fast as I can exactly what I hope the value will be. And then if someone clicks create more, I've tried in this next paragraph to explain exactly how I was inspired to create this. So what I said in this paragraph is the exact motivation that got me to put this out. I think if you can isolate the exact motivating factor that got you to produce whatever it is you're creating, this can be extremely helpful for selling people on why to watch it. So what I did here is I explained exactly why I wrote this. I said, when reading books like this, I've often been frustrated with authors editing out what I thought were the most interesting parts, such as suicide attempts mentioned without any details, or shameful habits embedded in code phrases, such as seeking lower companionship without explaining it further. This is why I made the book. I was listening to Amanda Palmer's Art of Asking, and she went into a lot of detail in her book, and I believe she was encouraged by publisher and others to cut out a lot of things. But she went into very candid detail, such as sharing that she was a dominatrix for a while, and I was really impressed with that, and still I wanted even more. I've listened to lots of other books by authors, and I listened to so many books where people just essentially edited out the things I really would have liked to heard in detail, where they said things like I just wrote in this description. And that's what I said. You know what? I'd love to read a book like that. And then the horrible realization hit me. Well, why don't I write it? To sell them on specifically what it is that makes your book or whatever you're writing this for worth reading. So that's what I've said. And then I've even put whatever phrases are relevant towards your audience. For example, in Alcoholics Anonymous, there's something called a 5th step that essentially you do confession and you come clean about all those things you've done. So if I have someone who searches, who's looking essentially for a speaker meeting with the 5th step, they search speaker meeting, 5th step, bam. They got my book. They search depression, 5th step. I speak in the exact language that the audience is intended for. Then what I do from here is I pretty much just share a summary of the book. In many parts of this description, I've literally just copied and pasted chapter titles when there were a lot of chapter titles. From here, I've pretty much done the same thing. I talk about, to begin, I share my life story. Next, I explore my first addiction in sex and porn. I go out here, intimate journey inside body shame and problems with sex. That could be a little redundant, but it's got body shame in there and problems with, I could even say sexuality to get in a different keyword there. Then I look at this. This is all search engine optimization here. So I just go down and share who I think the audience is for. And you especially don't need to do this perfectly because you can always edit this later as well. So I just, in this part, I essentially put in a table of contents written in paragraph form that's easier to read, along with all the things people might search for. If someone searches video game addiction, alcoholism, look, I've got video game addiction because that's in the book. Someone searches for video game addiction, weight gain, fear, panic attacks, then I've got all that in. So I simply, for the rest, seek to just describe what's in the book. Now that the description's done, the description to me is one of the key areas where it makes or breaks your book. You work so hard to get people to the landing page, and then often, if you're like me, for many of the other books, I pay little attention to the description. And guess what? I've had a hard time selling a lot of my books because I work so hard to get people to the page. But then when I put a description up here, I've often just not put much time and energy into this. So I've put a lot more time and energy into getting this description both concise, which is hard for me, as you can tell, to get what I need to say in a small space with just the minimal words in the exact language my audience is likely to use, share the story of it, and boom, the description's done. Once you've got the description done, it's ridiculously easy after that to get it published.